Hello, people. Welcome. This is Mac with Mac Commentary, and I have today with me Bob. How are you, Bob?
I'm doing fine, Mac. How are you?
Yeah, you know something. We had planned to talk about how the U.S. Meddled in the how it meddled in split the Sudan, creating an oil republic, drowning in poverty and conflict over there, and right now they're all rushing to get out of there after the two warlords have started their fight. But instead of talking about that today, Bob, I think we'll come back to that on our next video. Today, I think we decided we'll talk about what came across my desk uh, was how an ex-officer who fatally shot Breonna Taylor was hired as a deputy in another city. I received this from the AP Wire. The former Louisville police officer who fatally shot Breonna Taylor has a new job in law enforcement in a county northeast of the city. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office on Saturday confirmed the hiring of Miles Cosgrove, who was fired from the Louisville Metro Police Department in January 2021 for violating use of force procedure and failing to use a body camera during the raid on Taylor apartment. Miss Taylor, a black woman, was killed March 13, 2020 by police executing a narcotics search warrant. None of the three white officers who fired into Taylor's home were charged by a grand jury in her death. Robert Miller, chief deputy in Carroll County, pointed to that fact in reference to Cosgrove's hiring. A protest in Carroll County was planned Monday in response to his hiring. However, I haven't received any information on that protest yet, but when I do, we will bring that up as well. But first, Bob, I'd like for you to and our audience to take a look at this video of what happened here during that time. This is a very short clip, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
Hey, ho, ho! Cosgrove has got to go!
Miles Cosgrove, the former Louisville Metro police officer who shot and killed Breonna Taylor in 2020, is back in law enforcement in a nearby county. Carroll County is about an hour northeast of Louisville. Cosgrove was hired as a deputy for the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Monday, there was a small protest outside of the local courthouse aimed at Cosgrove's hiring.
Nobody in this town feels comfortable with that at all.
According to the Associated Press, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office pointed out that Cosgrove was cleared by the state grand jury when speaking of his hiring. Miles Cosgrove was fired from the Louisville Metro PD for violating its use of force procedures and for failing to activate his body camera during the botched raid of Breonna Taylor's apartment.
According to Kentucky law, the use of force by Mattingly and Cosgrove was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death.
Notably, Cosgrove, who reportedly fired 16 rounds into the apartment during the raid, has not faced any criminal prosecution in Taylor's death. The Department of Justice filed civil rights charges against 4 other Louisville officers, one of whom was on the scene with Cosgrove and also fired into Taylor's apartment. Being dismissed from one department doesn't necessarily end an officer's career, as some studies from around the country have shown.
Our current system in Texas is broken.
Luis Soberon is an attorney and policy advisor for Texas 2036, a nonprofit political advocacy group. Soberon found over a 10-year period, 566 law enforcement agencies in Texas have rehired more than 1,400 officers who were dishonorably discharged from a previous department.
If an officer messes up at the agency and moves somewhere else, they still retain their license. So the question is, do we have enforceable standards of conduct that we can do that we can take action against the license, so that if they violate these kinds of standards of conduct, they actually can't move on to the next agency because they wouldn't have the license to do it. The answer, in short, is that we really don't currently.
A similar study in Florida found about 3% of all officers working in the state, just under 1,100 officers, were previously fired from another agency. More importantly, those officers are more likely to be fired from their next job or to receive a complaint for a moral character violation.
A lot of people had known that these kinds of officers, wandering officers that bounce around, maybe are more likely to be problematic. They take their problems with them, is what you hear anecdotally. This paper from 2020 was kind of the first effort to put data behind it.
Soberon says due to privacy laws in Texas, he was not able to track the behavior of wandering officers across the Lone Star State. Back in November, the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council voted not to revoke Miles Cosgrove's state police officer certification. Allowing Cosgrove to retain his certification cleared the way for him to apply for and accept a new law enforcement position in the state.
Okay, Bob, you've looked at that clip as the same as I and the audience has as well. Now, what really gets me in this whole thing here is that Cosgrove fired 16 rounds into the apartment after the front door was breached, and that Taylor's boyfriend fired a shot at them. Now, the federal ballistic expert said that they believe the shot that killed Taylor came from Cosgrove. In November, the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council voted not to revoke Cosgrove's state peace officer certification. That meant he could apply for other law enforcement jobs in the state. Now, Bob, this really, it gets me. It shows what it shows me, and it should show all blacks that. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that they are how whites have a tendency to stick together. They pull together, and they even coerce, as you saw from that video, the DA, who is black, to stick with them. And I know to you, Bob, I know that you've been around and seen a lot of these things happen over and over again in our community. And I wonder, when will black people wake up and smell the roses? When will they wake up, Bob, and see what is happening? Why is it that we can't pull together like that? These are some dire times right now. Things, it's all over. You saw what they were talking about on the last video that we did about the hanging and the lynching of blacks out there in Oklahoma, and all the other, the Trayvon Martin and the Browns and you name them, Bob, and you just keep on naming them and keep on naming them. How many have to die? How many Floyds have to die before black people wake up? This is a war. But nobody feel like they have to die for anything unless it's to kill one of your own brothers, you know? So I just, to me, it's heart-wrenching to see that how can someone like Breonna Taylor, who's there asleep in her bed, why would they come in there and break down a door like that just to get in there? And I mean, without alerting the people that they were police and they were outside and they had the place surrounded. Now, if the guy had started shooting after that, then there was no alternative left. But boom, they just went in there, breached that door, made a lot of racket doing so. And I mean, I would have been jumping up, grabbing a gun or whatever I could for defense as well. But the thing that got me too, Bob, that the only people that got charged in this whole thing was a one of the officers who were outside shooting up into Miss Taylor's apartment, and some of the bullets happened to stray over and go into another apartment, and they charged him for firing into reckless firing his gun into an adjacent apartment, which was occupied by the whites, you know. And to me, it was just amazing that we still have this here going on, and nobody. Sure, we'd go out there and jump up and down and raise sand about what happened and march on it. But some real action has to come from the people in that community and in each and every other community where these things are going on, where they are snatching black women out of cars, throwing them on the ground. I mean, elderly women, and handcuffing them, and they are not even resisting just because they don't see us as humans. They see us as animals. What's your take on that, Bob?
Well, back as you describe it, it is a rather depressing situation. But you know, and I know this may sound strange to your listeners, but that's the kind of behavior that I expect from the Caucasoid. And as a result, I conduct myself differently than most Negroids. I expect the Caucasoid to want to lynch us, to want to castrate us, to want to do all of these evil acts, because that's the way he is. But you see what it is, we as a race of people are in denial. And that's one of the reasons I think we can't get ourselves together as a group and become irate at some of the behavior of these Caucasoids, because they're becoming much more emboldened. I've been noticing it over the last several years with all of the mega deaths being perpetrated upon young blacks. And all of the people that perpetrate these crimes are in uniform, primarily Caucasoids, some Negroids, and each time that they do that, they're exonerated, and many of them given promotions, like this guy that you're describing. He killed that woman and gets promoted to a deputy chief job. Well, that's America. And we as a race of people don't speak out about that. And why don't we speak out about it? Because our so-called leaders don't say anything about it. Once they get elected or appointed to a position of responsibility, their primary purpose is to maintain that job and stay in the upper 10% of the income earners in America. Their quest is for the almighty greenback. And so they forget about the fact that this young lady, Breonna Taylor, I guess that was her name, the kind of hateful and killing behavior that they experience. And it's going on every day. As you and I are speaking right now, I would be willing to bet you my last dime that somewhere in America, a black person is getting his or her ass kicked by a Caucasoid. I know that sounds strange to say that, but I bet you I could back it up if I had the information. But the information doesn't get out there. And it is getting out there now much more openly and quickly than it did 2 3 years ago.
Well,
But you're right. There's many
Bob.
George Floyds that haven't and that are going to continue to be exposed over the coming days.
Yeah, I had I was talking to someone a few days ago concerning the same thing, that it seems like this whole USA and the world itself is, and the U.S. in particular, like is headed for an implosion, explosion, not an explosion, but an implosion. And the reason I say that is because everything's so chaotic. I mean, the morality in this country is so far gone. I mean, we maybe we've had the police doing all these things all the time, and but we never knew about what was happening. Maybe we had a lot of shootings going on. About the shootings in not necessarily schools, but shootings, killings of people with guns and everything. But we never heard about it because it was kept on the down low. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have these cell phones. We didn't have Google. We didn't have social media. So therefore, we didn't hear about this as quickly as we do today. If something happened out in Alaska, you'll hear it on your 6 o'clock. If it happened at 12 o'clock, you can bet you're going to hear it on your 6 o'clock evening news, because that's how fast information travels today. So a lot of these things, like what they've been doing to blacks, is just a continuation, Bob, of what happened during and after slavery, after the Reconstruction period, after 1877. It's the same thing when they had the slave patrols, when they had the Ku Klux Klans after the 1877, and all the way up until the present day, who would go around. And now the Ku Klux Klans, instead of wearing white hoods, they now wear blue uniforms. And you remember back in, maybe you don't remember it, but back in the day, back during the slavery time and subsequent, they always had overseers. Mainly they was white overseers, but they also had black overseers. It's just like this guy that they got there as a DA in Kentucky, Louisville there, and how Trump praised him for doing the right thing. And what this here, you heard what he said on the video there, that there was nothing, that these officers were doing the right thing by protecting in fear for their lives. They were protecting their lives by shooting. I mean, you shoot 16 times, you don't even know what you're shooting at, That just sounds like something, that's sort of like when I was in the military, they said we got to lay down a certain amount of fire at the enemy just to keep the shots going in there. That'll keep them down, Well, I mean, so that tells me that the police is at war. They're like soldiers, and they dress like soldiers. So they're at war with black people, and black people don't seem to understand that. And yet you got there in Tennessee, where these young blacks are up there, the young black legislators, they want blacks to and not only blacks, but everybody, I guess, to give up their guns. And what happened? Who's going to have guns then to protect themselves from these police
Yeah,
officers who are coming after you?
sure.
Because I mean, you got to, they, if they can say they fear for their lives, can't we say we fear for our lives? And what's that new law they got out there? Stand. What's that law about?
Stand by your man.
No, no. Stand. Uh, when you don't back down, stand your ground. That's what they call
Okay.
it. So, I mean, can't we feel that we have to stand our ground too?
Yeah, well, but
I
you
mean,
know, you
if a police is coming at, I'm a citizen, he's a citizen, he has his job to do. But if he's coming at me in such an aggressive way, I have to stand my ground, don't I? If I feel like he's about to do me bodily harm. I mean, that's what I learned in the military.
but well, that's true, Mac. But you forget about the fact you're not a Caucasoid.
Well, I mean, I just be a dead Negro at then because somebody will be another dead Caucasoid there with me.
Yeah, it's well, and I don't mean to make light of this.
Yeah,
I mean
well, we are
because
being a little lighter.
it's a serious situation, and it's getting worse. It is getting worse, and you could see it every day. I mean, I see it here in Detroit. Uh, you know, I've seen Detroit. I remember as a young fellow when I was growing up here in Detroit. Uh, Detroit at that time was probably, I think it had over 1 million people, close to 2 million people, and probably 80% were Caucasoids. And today, it's got less than 1 million people, and about 80% are Negroid. Uh, and even today, you have as much brutality in the Negroid community, primarily Negroid town now, one of the biggest towns in the state of, I mean, the biggest town in the state of Michigan, but one of the biggest in the United States. I think it's probably in the top 10. Uh, you have that same type of, I think, as you point out accurately, overseer mentality where ex slaves are being brutalized by the so called people that are supposed to pr- protect and serve. And that's a sad situation. So it's not to be made light of. So when I laugh about a circumstance, I'm not laughing. I'm laughing to keep from crying because it's a difficult situation, and we as people, as a race of people, we don't see it today, and we didn't see it 50 years ago when I was a much younger man.
Well,
Uh, and that's tragic.
well, for sure, there is something. There's something going on, and sometimes you might want to think. You have to think outside of the box too, Bob, because I meet people. I meet whites every day who are nice people, good people. I mean, they are. And I mean, I met some today, and I'm out walking. I meet people, and we talk and have conversation. I'm not everybody, all of them, each one susceptible to my hellos and greetings of goodwill, but most are. And I'm usually susceptible to their overtures as well when it comes to greetings and having conversations about things that's going on. But I tell you, in this day and age, we have to try to look at things in a very optimistic outlook. Otherwise, we get caught up in things that we don't want to get caught up in particular, hate. And we shouldn't be hating none of our brothers. And hate is something that's very destructive. And we know how much we are hated. But we cannot retaliate by hating because against no other people or nobody for that matter. Nobody in your family or outside your family or another race or anything. We can't tolerate that because only thing it's going to do is eat you up on the inside if you start to hating.
That's right.
But what we have to do, we have to try to communicate with people. And it's not, I don't know how much more that we can do because the onus is really on them. So I think that from the ordinary people out here, whether they're white, black, Hispanic, or Asian, or whatever, I don't think that most people hate each other, Bob. I think it's probably something that's planned and being orchestrated. If you think about it. I mean, why? You give me one example of this. Why, when you see things that happen like with the Floyd guy up in Minnesota, the killing of him, why would police officers continue the same type of tactics? Why would they continue to do the same thing over and over? To me, if it's not orchestrated, then that's what we call insanity, when you keep doing the same thing over and over expecting different results. So they must be insane then. Or if they're not insane, then they must be controlled as by a puppeteer. You follow me?
Sure.
Somebody is pulling the strings here, Bob, making these things happen. Why all of a sudden you go back, when I was a kid, and I was in a southern state at the time, very seldom did I see any police officer in our community. Unless somebody called them. You follow me?
Sure.
But that was infrequently. But now they patrol the black communities, Bob. It's not to say that we don't need police officers there. But now they seem to patrol it, and they got these type of what they stop and frisk in some communities, where they just really harassing people. They stop people driving while black. Just like to kill this young man up there in Grand Rapids. He was from an African country. I forgot his name now. I think his name was like Ayala. First name was Patrick, I believe. And this police officer couldn't control Patrick there. Instead of him letting Patrick run, he had his car and he had his passenger in the car. he gonna try to wrestle with the guy instead of waiting for backup to come if he thought it was on the traffic stop. You follow me?
Sure.
And then after he couldn't get the best of the guy with the stun gun, he just reached back and pulled his service revolver, service weapon out, and shot the guy in the head.
Sure.
I mean, this must be something that they are programmed to do.
Well, and they're trained to do that. That's their training. I've never been a police officer, nor have I ever aspired to be one. But I think that that's a part of their training, and it may be restricted to officers who have that kind of a predisposition to kill like that, and the officer knows who he is, and the people in the leadership positions know who that officer is, so they pull him aside and they say, "Hey, Bob, you exhibit these kinds of exceptional qualities, so we're going to put you in this type of training program." And but you're to keep that to yourself. I don't want you to divulge that to your wife, to anybody else. You are of a special class. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Okay, you're in. And as a consequence, the other thing we're going to do is give you an extra amount of income to underwrite your behavior, because you may need to you may need expenditures that these other just average guys don't need, but you're to keep that to yourself as well. And all of these things are a part of the control mechanism, the ownership mechanism to keep this world together under the leadership and ownership of the Caucasoid race.
Well, what happened with this guy, Patrick Lyoya, is that I think it was a Grand Rapids police officer, I believe, or state trooper, one or the other. They got him. They charged him with I think it was second-degree murder, something like that. But he may never see see the inside of a prison, because right now it'd be years before that trial, before he goes to trial. He's supposed to go to trial in April of this year, but now they've appealed something that the judge ruled on. They appealed that to the appellate court there, Michigan, and now after that they can appeal to the Supreme Court. I mean the Supreme Court of Michigan, and then how long that'll take? Probably years, right?
Sure.
And then they can appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and how long would that take? So, if there is a trial, it could be 10 years from now, Bob. And by that time, the guy slips right through the cracks,
Right.
You say, "Oh, everybody forgotten about that. We can let you go. You serve your time." You know what? But he's out on bond though, So
Oh, sure.
so he's living his life, and he's gonna be well taken care of. That's what I
That's
say.
right.
They take care of their own, Bob, and that's something that we don't do. I mean, I've seen it on jobs I worked on, uh, and I was telling my daughter about that and how she has to be in this world, you know. And that's
Right.
and because no matter how much you think you know and how smart you are, they don't have to be as smart as you.
Right.
Only thing they have to be is their complexion, and they're going to be taken care of because, and we have to start thinking like that as well. I mean, what I find that they do, Bob, they put these certain Negroids into positions, and like you were speaking of earlier, and they think that, oh, I made it now, you know?
Yes.
And they don't care anything about trying to, about the other one because they now find themselves associated with the Caucasoids, and they think that they are Caucasoids now.
Yes.
And some of them, Bob, inside they are. But let them, I used to tell people on the job, I say, one of the things you got to move around here like you're walking on eggs. And
Yes.
I tell you, don't stumble because if you do, they're gonna have a boot up your tail right out the door, you know?
Right.
And that was true, Bob. I saw it happen. And during that time, I saw out of 100, say you got 100 people there, there might have been 3 blacks total in the out of that 100, maybe 5. But I only saw one white go out the door because they didn't like him. But I saw 3 or 4 blacks, and
Right.
they only were 5 there, you know,
Right. Sure.
because they took care of their own. But then at the same time, the ones that we had in position with some quote power unquote, they did absolutely nothing to help certain other blacks. Some they
Right.
did that they socialized with, just like the other ones did. But as far as trying to pull up the other one, and as you stated once, maybe Jimmy Carter had come out with the affirmative action during his tenure as a president of these United States, so that blacks would get into position to be able to help other blacks come up as well.
Right.
But it didn't work like that, Bob.
No. No, it didn't.
But here we are today, how many years later? And we see the same thing, you know. Uh, and I'm not going to go into anything else on that particular issue, but I just would like to end our diatribe here concerning what happened to Breonna Taylor, to say that we have so many martyrs now who died,
Yes, that's true. Yes.
who died for nothing. I mean, could
That's
have
right.
easily have de-escalated that situation. Matter of fact, they knew that guy was in the house. They knew she was in the house. What was what was the exigence for them to go in there and get him at that particular time, that late at night or whatever time in the wee hours of the morning or whatever, when they could wait and put up a surveillance there and wait until that guy come out?
Oh, right. But they don't care about that. That's not a part. That's why I say that when you I that's why I think you're right. When you look at these circumstances, you can see that it's almost as if it's pre-planned to be that way, and uh, and I don't think it's going to change. I don't think we'll change. As a matter of fact, I think it will change in the sense that it's going to get worse. I don't think it'll change and get better uh, for those of us who are victims of these kinds of acts of brutality.
I wonder what the other people that's the audience, people in the audience out there, I wonder what do they think? What do they think will happen? What do you see? We talked about the problems that we have here. What about some solutions? My solution is that the blacks got to be better organized. We got to go back to the '60s and beyond, where we had our own communities, where we had our uh, Baptist picnics and etc.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, all of this. I think, but I think that this whole thing, Bob, as I alluded to earlier, I think the whole thing is orchestrated by some power that be. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, you think these here riots and things like that, that all of a sudden here's somebody get shot and killed over here, and all of a sudden, I mean, it's so egregious that people have to go and write about it, burn up the city or whatever, because it's so horrible. And then all of a sudden, you got another one happening over here. The same thing with all these shootings. There's something going on, Bob. Something going on in this society right here.
Oh yeah.
That is to keep the blacks upset with the police, and the police are told that they got to stay on top of the blacks because the blacks are getting too much, getting too uppity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So all of this is orchestrated to make the blacks go out and do things and get upset with the Republicans, and the Republicans doing other things to get the other group out there upset with the Democrats, and everybody else, the big elites out there, they all laughing to the bank, because what they want to do is they sell more guns, they put more guns in the community, and so that more people got guns. So now there could be a war between the citizens and the police.
Yes.
Maybe that's what they want to see happen, Bob. And maybe everything is planning and going in that direction. Maybe that's what is going on here, Bob.
You think that might be the motive?
Oh yeah. They want
Well,
to.
it could be. I mean, I see that I see that kind of motive on an international level over there in the Sudan. So why wouldn't they do it locally here at home? It
Ex-
works.
oh yeah, I mean, this whole thing is divide and conquer. You know,
Right.
the more the thing it is, they want the guns taken off the streets, Bob.
Right.
That's what the Democrats want, or the elites want. They want all the gun. They want the guns taken off, so that now you have no guns. They got the police state. They already training the police what to do. They all got combat equipment, tanks and whatever else they have. They ready to go to war. If they get all the guns taken away, then you won't have a militia, Bob.
Right.
They can control the people, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because they got the control of the military, they got control of the police, and nobody has any guns to fight, right? Isn't that why they created the Fifth Amendment? I mean, not the Fifth Amendment, but the Second Amendment.
Right.
But now, but now they want to take them all away from people. That's a certain elites out there want to do, Bob. And once they, and then they want to get, then at the same time they want to get blacks so mad that they'll start fighting the police, and therefore they can kill on wholesale. Then
Right.
they all waited for that, Bob. I think they've been trained for that.
Well,
That's the big day.
yeah.
Used to be they used to wait for the hanging. Now they waiting for the shoot down day.
It's see if Bob will run across the field.
Yeah, they call it
If
hunting. They got
If
movies
they
out
could
there.
hit a moving target.
Yeah, they got these movies now, Bob, and it's just a reflection of what is really going to happen. They're going to have people out there. They're going to go out there and round up people, probably us blacks. Tell us, okay, you got a head start of 15 minutes. And we will not have any guns because they have taken them all away, Bob.
Right.
But
That's absolutely right.
anyway, we just wanna know what the people really think. We just trying to make a little humor here with this grave situation here that we are talking about. But these are some serious times, people. And
They
it's
sure
time.
are, Mac. And I think that that's a great suggestion that you have. Asking your audience, what do they think? I mean, comment or do something. Let you know if the kind of topics that you're bringing to them is of interest to them. Because if it's not, what do they want to hear? What are they interested in?
Yeah, because I'm sure that this is something that should be of interest of all of us. With what is happening today to our people, so it has to be a solution here. That's what I'm more concerned about, not the topics. I'm more concerned about the solution to this particular problem that's going on throughout this country right here now.
Right.
And it's not, and are they trying to put us against the whites against the blacks? Or the blacks against the whites? But the police against the blacks?
Yes.
I mean, what is going on here? I mean, they take them out of one. They do it like this all the time, Bob. They take the police officer that's done something so egregious in this particular city here. They take him. They never revoke his peace office credential certification, and he just move on to another city and get another job and continue.
Right.
Nothing ever happened. You see.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, maybe that's what we should be. That's a solution. See, will these politicians get up off of their duffs and try to do something to change it, that when people are involved in something as egregious as the shooting of Breonna Taylor, that they never see a police officer uniform again in any legal way. You follow?
Yes.
And how do we do that? We get and we write to these Congress people that we have, city officials that we have, and tell them, and state officials, and tell them this is what we expect for you to do, to fight for us. Because they have found, Bob, that if he does it here, he's going to do it again.
Absolutely.
And once you got your first kill, it's easy to get that second one.
Yep.
That happens in the military. You don't want to, but This is not the military, Bob. We are all U.S. citizens here. And this person, this police officer, he's a U.S. citizen. We all have certain laws that we all have to obey.
Yes, that's true.
So anyway, I want to thank you, Bob, and we'll talk to you again. Maybe we'll do another one tomorrow.